Good morning, students. In the previous class, we have started 11th lesson, New Kings and Kingdoms, and we have discussed about how the new kingdoms were emerged and how the kings were administrated their kingdoms and how they collected the taxes from the people. Okay, and about Muhammad Ghori also we discussed in the previous class. Now we are going to discuss about Cholas in part 2. So these Cholas were the kings who ruled South India, and how they became successful ruler we will discuss. From Urayar to Tanjavur. So actually these Cholas were a small chiefly family. Okay, so how did the Cholas rise to power we will discuss. So a minor chiefly family known as the Muttariyar held power in the Kaveri Delta. So one of the family having some power on some area, Muttariyar. So it is located in near Kaveri Delta. They were subordinates to the Pallava kings. Who are the subordinates? These Muttariyars were the subordinates to the Pallava kings of Kanchipuram. So Vijayalaya, who belonged to the ancient chiefly family of the Cholas from Urayar. So Cholas belongs to Urayar. Okay, next. So who established the Chola empire? Vijayalaya from Urayar captured the delta from the Muttariyar in the middle of the 9th century. So Vijayalaya captured some part of the area from Muttariyar in the 9th century. So he built the town of Tanjavur and temple for goddess Nishamba Sudini there. So after the Vijayalaya, the successors of Vijayalaya conquered neighboring regions and the kingdom grew in size and power. So all the kings every time try to expand their kingdoms. The Pandyan and the Pallava territories to the south and north were made part of this kingdom. Means the Pandyan kingdoms and Pallavas kingdoms also conquered by successors of Vijayalaya. Like that, Chola empire was established. Okay, in this family, Rajaraja I considered the most powerful Chola ruler. Rajaraja I. So he became the king in 1985 CE and expanded his control over most of these areas. And Rajaraja's son Rajendra I continued his policies, and he conquered Ganga Valley, Sri Lanka and countries of Southeast Asia also. Okay, from Chola dynasty, Vijayalaya was the first one. Next, Rajaraja I. Next, Rajendra I were the famous rulers in Chola empire. Splendid temples and bronze sculptures. So they constructed big temples like Tanjavur and Gangikonda Cholapuram, built by Rajaraja and Rajendra, both in the term of both the kings. So those temples were constructed. Okay, Chola temples became the centers of the trade, and people settled near the temples, and those were growth as a economic centers also. And these are the places of craft production. So even the kings were donated lands to the temples to run day-to-day activities. So the produce or income which is generated from the land was spent to run the temple and given salaries to the workers who are engaged in the temples, like priests, grand garland makers, cooks, sweepers, musicians, dancers, etc. Okay, and these temples not only the places of worship but also the hub of economic and social and cultural life as well. Okay, so here craft persons were also lived. So out of all the crafts, bronze images was the most distinctive, and Chola bronze images are considered to be the finest in the world. So they made good bronze images, sculptures. They improved at the time of Cholas. While most images were of deities, some images of devotees were made as well. So those are very finest bronze images in the world. Next, agriculture at the time of Cholas. Okay, so they have good fertile lands at the time. Kaveri valleys and some lands of West Bengal. So those are very fertile lands, though those rivers deposited silt and mud. Because of that, some deltas were formed. So water from the streams also provides the necessary moisture for agriculture, particularly the cultivation of rice. So they used different type of methods to improve the cultivation. They cleared the forest regions, and they made land level in some areas to cultivate. So in so many areas the farmers cultivated 2 crops in a year, and they implemented variety of methods for irrigation. In some areas they dug wells and they constructed huge tanks to collect the rainwater. So the irrigation required planning, organizing labor and resources, maintaining these works, and deciding on how water is to be shared. So when you follow these methods, planning and organizing, then we can improve the cultivation more. They implemented those methods at the time. Okay, next, the administration of the empire. So how they administration means how they ruled. To rule any kingdom or any country, we need some administrative staff. So the king had a council of ministers to help him. So now also, so all the state governments and the central governments having chief minister and prime ministers, to help them, some group of ministers also appointed. Okay, like that here also the king is having some ministers to help him. He had a strong army and navy. The empire was divided into mandalams or provinces, further subdivided into Valanadus and Nadus. Okay, so total kingdom divided into different levels, and mandals and Valanadus and Nadus. Even our country also divided into different states, and again different states divided into districts, district divided into mandals, mandals divided into villages. So to administration, so all the country divided into different parts, like that. At the time the kingdoms also divided into different parts. Okay, so peasants who are living in the villages are known as Ur. So these are depend on agriculture. Group of such villages formed larger units called Nadu. So number of villages considered as Nadu. So the village council and the Nadu performed several administrative functions, including dispensing justice and collecting taxes. Means every Nadu, group of villages called Nadu, every Nadu has their own village council to administrate to that area. And what are the powers of them? So they can settle the disputes and collect the taxes from the public. Next, rich persons of the Vellala caste exercised considerable control over the affairs of the Nadu under the supervision of the central Chola government. So here the council was there for every Nadu. So rich persons from Vellala caste are the heads of that council, and those were supervised under control of the Chola government. Means those were appointed by the kings. So even the Chola kings also gave some rich landowners titles like Muvanda Velan or peasant, serving three kings who served under the three kings. Those are called Muvanala, Velan or Ariyar or chief. Okay, so when they give this type of titles, so those people will be served to the kings honestly. Okay, so at the time the lands are divided into different types. So under Chola kingdom, according to Chola inscriptions, so several categories of lands were there. One is Valanvagi. So Valanvagi means land of non-Brahmin proprietors. So other than Brahmins who are having lands, those are comes under Valanvagi. And Brahmadeya, so one type of land gifted to Brahmins. So those days the kings were gifted, donated lands to Brahmins. So those are called Brahmadeya. And Shalabaga, so another type of land for the maintenance of school. So to run the school, it required some money. So to generate money to run the school, the kings were donated some lands to schools. That is called Shalabaga. To salaries to teachers and to maintain the school. Next, Devadana or Tirunama Tukkani, land gifted to temples. Next, Pallik Chandanam, land donated to Jaina institutions. Like that, all the lands, different categories are there. Okay. So next, in that kingdoms, Brahmins usually get the donations from the kings. So those grants are Brahmadeya. Those are called grantor Brahmadeya. So that's why so many Brahmins were settled in the kingdoms or Kaveri Valley. So each Brahmadeya, so that land which is donated to Brahmins, so that area was looked after by an assembly or sabha of prominent Brahmana land holders. So that area was ruled by Brahmana landholders. So these assemblies worked very efficiently. Okay, they recorded the details and everything, and even traders also participated in that administrative functions in towns. So inscriptions from Uttaramariar in Chengalpat district, Tamil Nadu, provide details of the way in which the Sabha was organized. So we will see how Sabha conducted and how the members were elected. The Sabha had separate committee to look after irrigation works, gardens and temples. So different committee people are there to look after irrigation, garden and temple separately. So how they elected these representatives, how they were elected, we will discuss. Names of those eligible members of these committees were written on small tickets of palm leaf. So those tickets were dropped in the pot, and a young person may take out the tickets one by one for each committee. So like that the committee members were selected. It means it is a lottery system. They followed the lottery system to select the committee members. So we will discuss about this Sabha more in this inscription. So who could be a member of Sabha? According to the Uttaramariar inscription, all those who wish to become members of the Sabha should be owners of land. So some conditions were there. So to become a member in the Sabha, so who are wish to become a member, they should have a land. If they don't have a land, they cannot become a member in that Sabha. First point. Second one, they should have their own homes in that place, in that village or in that mandal. So they should become the residents of the mandal. Next, their age limit is 35 to 70 years only. Below 35 or after 75, those who are not eligible for become a member in the Sabha. First one is they should have a land. Second one is they should have their own home, and they should be aged between 35 to 70, and they have the knowledge of the Vedas. And educated only can appoint as a member. Nowadays uneducated also electing as a MLA and MP. Okay. Next, they should be well versed in administrative matters and be honest. Means they should have a experience in that administrative matters, and those should be honest. Then only they will become the members. And if anyone has been a member of any committee in the last 3 years. Already he was the member in any committee, so they should not become a member of another committee. Means every person should member in only one committee, not in more than one committee. Okay, so anyone who has not submitted his accounts, means income details, wealth details. So before going to elect as a member, he should reveal his assets in list of assets or income, including details of his relatives. So cannot contest the elections. If you don't announce his income details, he is not eligible as member. So like that, so many conditions were there to become a member in the Sabha. Okay, so mostly women were not allowed to become a member in the Sabha. So other people lived in a different parts of the places nearby the mandals. Okay, like that these people were administrated their kingdoms. Clear? So with this lesson is completed. Already I posted the objective questions yesterday, so answer those and send to me. Thank you.